Design of eccentric footing used for gravity loads only. This type of footings are not advisable. Do not use this type of footing where loads are more than 200 kN. Also avoid such footings when there are lateral loads due to earthquake and wind. Design a eccentric footing for column M20. So this is our frame. Okay, this is member M20. Eccentric footing are usually provided when the column face and the property line, when the column is on the property line. Okay, so assuming this is our property line, and we will design this. We'll design the footing for this column as a eccentric footing, that is M20. Okay, so from this analysis, these are the results which we have obtained. Design an eccentric footing for column M20 to carry affected load. Okay, P is equal to 322 kilonewton and moment mx is equal to 52. This is bending moment diagram. This is the moment at the base, at the base of the column. This is 52 and this is clockwise. Okay, this is clockwise. Okay, and my is 6.5, so it is in this direction, right? That is due to the minimum eccentricity. Size of column M20 is 230 by 450. So 230 in this direction and 450 in this direction. Okay. Use M25 grade concrete Fe415 steel. Take effective cover equal to 75 mm for footing and partial load factor equal to 1.5. The shear force in the column is equal to 53 kilonewton in direction of depth. This shear force time. The shear force is 53. Okay, right. Take the SBC of soil is equal to, say, is equal to 200 kilonewton per meter square. Basic fundamental for design of eccentric footing. In case of eccentric footing, these are the loads at the base of the column which have to be transferred to the CG of the footing. Please remember, in this case, the CG of column and CG of footing is in same line. Please remember. Okay, this is y-axis, this is x-axis. Okay, along y-axis, the CG of column and the CG of footing are in same line, right? Okay, so when you transfer these loads and forces to the CG of the footing, definitely this you will have a moment m1 over here. Okay, this moment m1 will be mx. Say when mx is anti-clockwise, this is anti-clockwise. Okay, this moment plus another moment due to this P into E. Okay, this will also give a moment P into E. So total moment m1 will be mx plus P into E. Okay, so in case of eccentric footing, it is very important to understand that you have to keep your B minimum and L maximum, because you cannot it is not advisable to have large E. Okay, if you keep this E very large, then you will have large moments, right? So to minimize this E, you have to keep your B minimum. Okay, right. So as the CG of this column and CG of this footing in this direction is same, so the moment my will be transferred over here. Okay, there will be no change in that. That is, m2 will be equal to my. So let me show you over here. This is anti-clockwise, this is also anti-clockwise, so m1 is equal to mx plus p into E, right? And m2 is equal to my. Similarly, when your mx is clockwise, okay, then m1 will be mx minus p into E, right? And m2 is equal to my. So our case is this. Okay, because our mx is clockwise, so we will have to refer to this case. M1 is equal to mx minus p into E. Okay, so note, keep the width of the footing be minimum and length L to be maximum to keep P into E moment minimum, right? clockwise moment mx is considered to be negative, okay, because our mx is clockwise, so we consider it to be negative. Transferring load p mx and my to the cg of the footing, the moment p into is anti-clockwise, okay. So we will have to subtract from mx. So our m1 formula will be p into e minus mx, and m2 is equal to my, and the formula for finding the upward soil pressure q is equal to this, right? We know this, p by a plus minus m1 by zx plus minus m2 by zy, okay, where this is our x-axis, okay, and this is our y-axis, okay. Now z is the section modulus, okay. So let us start the design of the footing. First step is select width b and length l of the footing, assuming the width of the footing b is equal to 1 meter. Okay, so note if the value of the factored upward soil pressure is found to be negative at any corner of the footing, then the value of b has to be increased. We'll see this later as we proceed. Okay, the service load is equal to factor load divided by load factor, and the weight of footing and backfill we are taking is 10% of this, so that is equal to 21.5 kilonewton, right? So now we want to find the length of the footing, right? B we have assumed as 1 meter, and so length of the footing can be assumed as p service load plus delta p divided by b into sbc. So this is equal to 1.18 meters, right? But we know that we have moments m1 and m2 acting at the top of the footing, so definitely it is but natural that the length of the footing required will be more than 1.18, so we will assume l to be 2 meters, okay. Now let us find the factored upward soil pressure. So m1 we know, m1 is equal to p into e minus mx. P is 322. E in our case is b by 2 minus half the depth of the column, that is 450 mm divided by 2. So this is 0.5 minus 450 divided by 2, that is our e, right? So over here we can see that E is equal to B by 2 minus 450 divided by 2. B is 1 meter, so 1 divided by 2, that is equal to zero point 0.5. 0.5 minus 0.225, that is E is equal to 0.275 meters, right? So this is how we get P into E minus 52. Mx is our 52, right? So this is equal to 36.55 kilonewton meter, right? So m2 we know is equal to my, that is 6.5. Now zx, what is zx? Zx is b square into l divided by 6, okay, that is zx, because this is our x-axis, this is our y-axis, okay. So zx is found to be 0.333, zy is found to be 0.667, okay. Zy is l square b by 6, that is 0.6667. So qmax is equal to p by a plus mx m1 by zx plus m2 by zy. So we get qmax is equal to 280.5. Please remember this is factored upward soil pressure, right? Now SBC 200 should be greater than qmax, right? So for getting actual Qmax, we have to divide this 280.5 divided by factor 1.5, that is equal to 187, and 187 is less than 200, so our assumed L is okay, okay. Now Q mean is given by this formula, okay. Then Q mean is found to be 41.5. As this Q mean is positive, okay, that means there is no negative uplift pressure, okay, and the B assumed is okay. If this Q mean was found to be negative, then you will have to increase the width B, but it is positive, so the assumed B, which we assumed, is okay, okay, right. So this is q1, that is p by a plus m1 by zx minus m2 by zy, this is equal to 261. This is q2, that is p by a minus m1 by zx plus m2 by zy, this is equal to 60.98, okay. So this is how we get the four stresses, four upward soil pressure at four corners. So let me show you in this drawing. So this is q max, this is q2, this is q min, this is q1, okay, right. So this is the upward soil pressure acting below the footing, right? So this is our footing. Over here, the footing, in this footing there are two elements. This is a beam, okay, on which the column is supported, and this is a cantilever slab, okay. So we will first do the design of this cantilever strip as cantilever slab, okay. We'll take 1 meter wide slab design strip, right. Okay, in case of footings we know that we don't provide shear reinforcement, okay. So and we also know that the depth of the footing are governed by the shear criteria. So we'll try to assume our effective depth with the one-way shear criteria. So find the effective depth of the cantilever slab using one-way shear criteria. Okay. Consider 1 meter design strip as shown in figure above, under which the upper soil pressure is maximum. Okay. So we are selecting 1 meter design strip over here where the upper pressure is maximum. Okay, so q max is maximum over here. Okay, q is maximum, that is over here, q max. So we are taking 1 meter strip on this side, right. Now design of okay, let us first start by taking the average stress below the 1 meter design strip of the footing to get the tentative to tentatively fix the effective depth of the footing. Okay, all right, let me show you this diagram. So over here it is q max, that is 280.5. Over here it is q2, that is 60.98. And this is our section, okay, that is section for one-way critical shear at a distance d from the support. Okay, we don't know d, so we don't know q actual over here, right. So what we do, just for the purpose of estimating and effective depth d, okay, we will take average upper soil pressure, that is q max plus q2 divided by 2, and that is equal to 170.74 kilonewton, okay, per meter square. Now assuming, now the next assumption we are doing is the percentage of steel, that is tensile steel, in case of this cantilever slab. Okay, now we are assuming this as 0.25%, right. So for when pt is 0.25% and our concrete grade is m25, right, then the permissible shear stress in concrete tau c is found to be 0.36 as according to table 19 IS 456 2000. Okay, now from this we get one equation, that is V allowable is equal to tau c into Vd, that is equation 1. Now shear force due to the upward soil pressure at a distance effective depth d from the support will be, so we have to find the second equation, that is some shear force will be acting at this section, and that section and that shear force will be equal to this is just an approximate shear force which we are finding for the time being to get an effective d, because we are taking q average, right. So that shear force will be equal to q average into this and this. Okay, this upward pressure is acting below this area, right. So q average into this into 1 meter, this is 1 meter, right. So this is equal to b, this total is b minus 450 mm minus d. Okay, so d we don't know, right. D we want to assume. Okay, so our second equation is v is equal to q average into b minus 0.45 meters into minus d into 1 meter. This is our equation 2. Now as we know that we do not provide shear reinforcement in this footings. Okay, so it is a must that this shear force v has to be either less than or equal to V allowable. It cannot be greater than V allowable, because if it is found to be greater than V allowable, then you will have to change your D, because we do not provide shear reinforcement in case of footing, right. So assuming that this V is equal to V allowable, we can equate equation 1 to equation 2. So equating this tau CBD equal to q average into b minus 450 mm minus d into 1000, this is equation 2. Solving this we get equation d is equal to 176.93 mm. Okay, so let us assume d is equal to 375 mm. Note, okay, in such footings at least keep the minimum depth is equal to 300 mm, right? So effective depth D is equal to D minus effective cover, that is 375 minus 75 mm is equal to 300 mm. Okay, so we are assuming the total overall depth of this cantilever slab is 375 mm, and so the effective depth is 300 mm over here. Okay, so this is how we arrive to a value of effective depth for the cantilever slab. Okay, now we will have to find Q actual. Now you know D, so you can find Q actual. Okay, so Q actual is found to be 115.56 kilonewton per meter square, right? Now we want to find the actual shear force acting at this plane. Simple, take average of Q actual plus Q2 divided by 2 into this distance into 1 meter will give you the shear force. So this distance we know, this is total B minus 450 minus D. Okay, this is something which we know because now D is not unknown, D is known to us, right? So this is B into 1 meter. Okay, so this gives us the shear force 22.0675 kilonewton per 1 meter. Okay, now from this we have to find the nominal shear stress tau V, that is equal to V divided by BD. B is 1000, that is 1 meter strip. D is 300. V is 22.075 into 1000, that is we get 0.0735 is our nominal shear stress in Newton per mm square, and tau C which we have assumed is 0.36 Newton per mm square, right? So that means as tau V is less than tau C, so the section is so the footing you can say is safe in one way shear check. Now the next step is for the check for the punching shear stress. So D is equal to 300 mm. Okay, so this is how the column punches the footing, right? So this line, okay, which you see is this line over here, this is plan. Okay, this is the column, so this is the column. Okay, so this is we know that the critical section for the punching shear stress is to be taken at a distance d by 2. Okay, so we have taken d by 2, this is also d by 2. Okay, so this is how we get we can see this thing in a plan like this, and this is a block diagram, right? So this is the peripheral length, so this is the peripheral length into D is, this is the area which will take the punching shear stress, right? Okay, now so first we will have to find the peripheral length, right? So peripheral length of the two-way punching section L0 is equal to this plus this plus this, that is equal to 1730 mm. Okay, now we have to find the shear force under this area, that is area outside the critical section, right? So our upper soil pressure is something like this. So finding the actual shear stress is becomes a little bit complicated, right? So what we do, we take the average Q max plus Q2 plus Q min plus Q1 divided by 4. We are assuming an average upper soil pressure. Okay, so we are taking average. So average is equal to Q max plus Q min plus Q1 plus Q2 divided by 4 is equal to 160.995 kilonewton per meter square. Okay, now we are assuming that an uniform soil pressure is, upper soil pressure is acting below the footing. It's an assumption. Okay, right. So now we want to find the shear force that this section has to take, right? So simple, the shear force for due to punching will be equal to Q average into this area, that is outside the critical section of punching shear stress. So how to find that area? Simple, total area minus this area, right? So that is what I have done away into Q average. So that shear force is found to be 270.79 kilonewton. Now I have to find the nominal nominal shear stress due to punching. So tau V is equal to V divided by L0 into BD. Okay, V is this, L0 is this. Okay, that is this. Okay, and into D. So this is the area which will resist the punching shear stress. So that is this area L0 into D. So this is found to be 0.522 Newton per mm square. Now let us check whether this is less than the permissible or greater than. Okay, so the permissible punching shear stress as per IS clause 31.6.3, that's IS 456 2000. We have tau c two-way is equal to Ks into tau c. Ks is equal to 1 plus beta c, which should be less than 1. So beta c is equal to short side by long side of the column, that is 230 by 450 mm, that is equal to 0.511, right? So Ks is found to be 1 plus 0.511, that is equal to 1.511, which is greater than 1. So Ks cannot be greater than 1. So we will take Ks is equal to 1. So tau c max is equal to 1 into tau c. So tau c is equal to 0.25 into under root fck, that is equal to 1.25. So this is our final permissible shear stress in case of punching shear stress, which is greater than tau v. So it is safe in punching shear stress. Okay, now coming to the next step, that is now we will find the bending moment at the face of the support, for which we have to find the tensile steel, right? So calculation of bending moment at the base of the support and required tensile steel area for the cantilever slab footing. So at this section, so you can easily find Q over here. Okay, so Q is found to be 181.716. Okay, so you can divide this into two parts, that is rectangle and the triangle. Okay, so this will give one force, that is Q2 into 0.55 into 1 meter, that is the force acting over here, into this distance, that is 0.55 divided by 2, that is going to give a moment about this face, right? Now the second moment will be due to this area, that is Q minus Q2 into 0.55 into 0.5 into 1 meter, that will give a force acting over here. That force into this distance again will give the second moment, that is due to the triangular portion. Okay, so the total moment found was 15.28 kilonewton meter per 1 meter, right? Now we have provided effective depth equal to 300 mm. So first step is that we have to check whether the provided depth is adequate or not. So this is how we find the minimum effective depth required is 66.55, which is less than 300, which we have provided. So the section is safe and the section is under reinforced. Okay, now AST minimum is equal to 0.12% in case of slabs, right? So 0.12%, it will be into capital D is equal to 450 mm square. Now we will find the required AST over here for this moment using the regular formula for rectangular section under singly under reinforced section. Okay, so D is equal to 300 mm, FCK is 25 and Fy is 415. So AST required is 142 as according to this formula, but we cannot provide our AST less than AST minimum, and our AST minimum is 450 mm square per meter. So we will have to at least provide 450 mm square per 1 meter width. But if we remember that in case of shear criteria, we had considered percentage PT as 0.25%. So first we will have to find the percentage for the AST for this percentage of steel. And if this area of steel is found to be less than minimum, then you have to provide minimum. But our is found to be 750 mm square, then we will have to provide 750 mm square per meter, right? So we are assuming that we are going to use 12 mm dia bar. So the spacing required is 100 into area of bar divided by AST required. So AST required is 750 mm square per 1 meter. Area of bar we are using is 113, that is 12 mm. Okay, so this spacing is found to be 150.667 mm center to center. So we will use 12 mm dia bars as main steel, and we will provide 12 mm dia bars about 150 mm center to center, right? So it is must, as according to code, that the spacing which we are going to provide should be less than lesser of these two, that is 3D or 300 mm. Our is 150 and is less than 900 and 300, so it is okay, right? Now distribution reinforcement in cantilever slab. Okay, so AST minimum is 0.12% BD, where D is overall depth. This is found to be 450 mm square. We will be using 10 mm dia bar. Okay, the spacing required for the distribution steel is 174.44 mm center to center. So let us provide distribution reinforcement 10 mm about 170 mm center to center. Let me show this in the detailing. Okay, so we will see the detailing. Let me scroll down. Okay, uh, okay, so this is our detailing. So this is our main steel for the cantilever slab, that is footing, right? So this is what we are providing as 12 mm about 150 mm center to center, and these round dots are the distribution steel to be provided along the length of the footing at top and bottom both. Okay, so this is to be provided at 10 mm about 170 mm center to center. Okay, right. Over this is the longitudinal section. Okay, I have taken a section in this direction. So over here also, this main steel are these dots over here, that is 12 mm about 150 mm. Okay, and these dots over here are the longitudinal steel shown over here, that is 10 mm about 170 mm center to center. So this is how I have displayed the steel required for the footing in this two figures. Okay, now coming to the design of beam. Okay, now design of beam. Okay, so now we'll do the design of this beam. Okay, now this P has to be, this R has to be equal to this P. Okay, so resultant R is equal to P is equal to 322 kilonewton. Considering the beam as a line element. Okay, now we are considering this beam, as a line element. Okay, considering the beam as line element, the upper soil pressure below the beam can be taken as Qmax, and we are assuming that below this beam the upper soil pressure is Qmax. Okay, this is going to be a little bit conservative, and it is good to be conservative in such type of footings. Okay, so this is how now we display our figure as a line element figure. Okay, so this is our cantilever, this is cantilever 1, this is cantilever 2, this is column. Okay, and the load acting is Qmax. Okay, and this will deflect the beam like this, right? So the tension will be at bottom, so the main steel has to be provided at bottom. Okay, plus so this will give a moment at the face of the column, plus you will have a twisting moment. Okay, so this is your resultant R force, right? This will give a twisting moment about the center line of the beam. Okay, so that twisting moment will be equal to this R into this distance, that is 0.275. Okay, plus we have another moment m1 acting over here. So taking a moment about the center of the beam, the twisting moment Tu is equal to P, that is R, into this distance 0.275 plus m1. This is equal to 125.1 kilonewton meter. This is twisting moment. Now half the twisting moment will be taken by this cantilever and other will be taken by this cantilever. So twisting moment in each cantilever beam is equal to 125.1 divided by 2, that is equal to 62.55, right? So this is how we get the twisting moment. Now finding the bending moment due to the upward soil pressure M. So this will give a bending moment over here, Q max into this distance, that is 0.885. Okay, so Q max into 0.885 into 0.885 into 0.5, that will be the moment over here, plus we have a moment m2 acting in this direction. Okay, so m2, so that is equal to 116.34. so this is the design moment which we have to take over here, right? At the face of the support, at the support face of the beam, right? Okay, now clause 41.4, the longitudinal reinforcement shall be designed to resist earth equivalent bending moment MET given by formula MET, sorry, it is MET. Okay, it is MET. MET is equal to M plus MT. M is this moment, MT can be found by this formula given in the code, where Tu is the twisting moment, that is 62.55. Okay, D and B, D is the depth of the beam and B is the width of the beam. Okay, for flexure members, when torsion is there, okay, when torsion comes in picture, it is better to give a squarish section. Okay, because Twisting moment width is very important. So we are assuming D as 600 and B as 500, right? We are assuming D as 600 and B as 500. Okay, so let's move for further, right? Now clause 41.4.2.1 says when your mt is found to be greater than m, then there will be a moment me2 that is equal to mt minus m, for which you have to calculate the longitudinal steel which has to be provided in the compression zone. Okay, so we will see that whether it is applicable to us or not as we move forward. Okay, assuming the overall depth of the beam is 600 mm, effective depth D is equal to D minus effective cover minus slab bar diameter minus 20 mm divided by 2. Okay, this is slab dia by 2 and this is 20 mm divided by 2. 20 mm dia, we are assuming that we are going to provide main steel as 20 mm at the bottom of the beam. Okay, so this is how we get our effective depth as 510 mm. Okay, so this is the table of design bending moment for longitudinal reinforcement required. This is for the main steel at the bottom steel, longitudinal steel required. Okay, so at support we know the design moment due to gravity load is 116.34, which we found 116.34. Our twisting moment is 62.55, 62.55. Okay, so once we know the twisting moment, we can find mt, that by using this formula. D is 600, B is 500, so and tu is 62.55. We get mt is equal to 80.95. Now the code says the total moment for which the longitudinal steel has to be designed and for the main steel, that is in the tension zone, okay, is met, that is m plus mt. So m plus mt is 197.29. So for this moment we will provide the longitudinal steel in the tension zone of the cantilever beam, right? Okay, so the first step is we have to check whether the depth which we have provided to the beam is adequate or not. So using the formula, we know mu limit is equal to 0.138 fckbd square for M25 grade concrete and Fe415. So the minimum effective depth required is found to be 338.18. Okay, 338.18, which is less than 510, which we have provided. It is better to provide stiff beams over here because we have to satisfy the crack widths also. Okay, so it is better to provide a little bit higher depth. Okay, so we have provided adequate depth 510, and so let's proceed further. Okay, now as per clause 41.4.2.1, we just saw that when if mt is greater than m, in our case mt is 80.95, m is 116.34, so mt is less than m. Okay, so me2 will not come in picture because me2 comes only in picture when mt is greater than m, right? But our mt is less than m, so there will be no additional steel required to be provided, longitudinal steel. Okay, we do not have to provide any longitudinal steel at top for the moment me2 equal to mt minus m. Okay, and we can take mt is equal me2 is equal to 0, right? So over here I have taken me2 is equal to 0. Now we are finding the tensile steel required. Okay, at support the moment is 197.29. The required steel from this formula is 1160 mm square, but we are providing 1231 mm square, that is we are providing 220 mm plus 316 mm dia bars at the bottom as bottom steel, right? At top we will provide 603, that is 3 number of 16 mm dia bar, which has to be greater than minimum est minimum. So est minimum is found by this formula, that is 0.5 bd by f5. So est minimum is found to be 523, but we are providing 316 mm dia bars whose area is 603 mm square, which is greater than 523 mm square, so it is okay, right? So let me show this in the detailing. Okay, so we will see the detailing. Okay, where we can see the beam we have provided is 600 mm, width is 500 mm, bottom steel is 220 plus 316 mm dia bars, and top we are providing as 316 mm dia bars. Okay, so here we can see this blue line is the bottom steel, and that bottom steel is 220 plus 316 mm dia bars. Okay, 220 plus 316 mm dia bars. Bottom steel 220 plus 316 mm for this cantilever. For this cantilever 220 plus 316 mm dia bars. At top for this cantilever 316 mm dia bars. For this cantilever 316 mm dia bars. Okay, so this is how we have shown the longitudinal section and the cross section, right? So now next step is we have to do the check for the shear, right? Okay, so check for shear. As according to clause 41.3, okay, code says equivalent shear VE shall be calculated by the following formula. VE is equal to V plus 1.6 TU by V. V we have to find. So how to find V? Okay, the shear force due to upward soil pressure V is equal to, simple, very simple, right? We want to find shear force B over here, so Q max into this length, right? That is 0.885, right? Q max into 0.885 is our shear force V acting at the support. Okay, that is 248.25. Okay, so we can find VE like this, and after once you find the VE, that is equivalent shear, we have to find the equivalent nominal shear stress, that is tau VE is equal to VE divided by BD, right? Fine. So we know VE can be found as V is, we know, 248.25, and so this is 1.6 TU by B, so that is VE is found to be 448.41. So nominal shear stress tau VE is equal to VE divided by BD. So that is equal to 1.758 Newton per mm square. Okay, 1.758 mm square Newton per mm square. Now tau VE has to be less than tau C max. The tau C max for M25 grade concrete is 3.1 Newton per mm square from table 20 IS 456 2000. So if your tau VE was found to be greater than tau C max, then you will have to change the revise the section, but as it is less, so it is okay. Now we have to see whether this stress tau VE nominal shear stress is less than the permissible shear stress tau C or greater than. Okay, so for finding tau C, first we need the percentage of steel. So percentage of steel is equal to 100 into AST provided divided by BD. So AST provided is 1231 mm square, right? So this is 100 into 1231 mm square divided by B is 500, D is 510. This is 0.482%, right? When PT is equal to 0.482%, for M25 grade of concrete, the permissible shear stress of concrete tau C is found to be 0.485 Newton per mm square from table 19 IS 456 2000. Okay, now we can see tau C is less than tau VE, and tau VE is less than tau C max. So we will have to provide shear reinforcement to take the additional shear. Okay, as per clause 41.4.3, transverse reinforcement shall be provided as follow. Okay, we will be using 12 mm dia bar stirrups, right? This is the formula given in the code, and this is valid for two leg closed stirrups. Please remember. Okay, let me explain why. Okay, say this is our flexure member. Okay, and it is subjected to twisting moment. Then the shear due to the twisting moment will be on the periphery. Okay, so the steel on the periphery will only take active part in resisting the shear, whether it is this vertical leg, horizontal leg, vertical leg, horizontal leg, or the longitudinal bars on the outer periphery, or the face bars on the outer periphery. This steel will only play a role, active role in taking the shear due to torsion. Say you are providing four leg stirrups, then this internal legs that are provided will not play any active role in taking the shear due to torsion. That is why the code says, however, how many legs you may provide, but the formula, in the formula ASV you have to take as the area of the outer two legs only, right? So this is ASV, right? Okay, so this is how this formula code is given, which is valid for two leg closed stirrups only. So changing this, bringing S over here, we get this modified formula. Okay, so whatever spacing you get over here, that spacing has to be lesser than this, lesser of this 5, right? So we will see that the spacing should not be greater than the list of the following. Okay, so these are the 5 conditions given in the code. Whatever spacing we get should be less than list of this. Okay, okay, so for that, first we have to find this values. What is b1? B1 is the horizontal distance between the center to center of the corner bars, right? D1 is the vertical distance between center to center of the corner bars. X1 is the horizontal, this is vertical distance. Okay, vertical distance between center to center of the corner bars, that is D1. X1 is horizontal distance between the center to center of the vertical leg of stirrups. Y1 is the vertical distance between the center to center of the horizontal leg of the stirrups. Okay, that is what I have found over here. All the details I have shown over here. At bottom we are going to use 20 mm. Largest bar diameter at bottom is 20 mm, and top the largest bar diameter is 16 mm. Okay, these are the bars which we have provided at corner, right? So this is how I have displayed the values of D1, B1, Y1, X1. Okay, now this is the formula which we have seen above. ASV. Okay, ASV, we are using two leg 12 mm dia bar. So the ASV is the area of two legs of 12 mm dia bar stirrups, 113 into 2. Okay, this is twisting moment. This V you have to take as design shear force. Okay, design shear force, that is 248.25. Okay, 248.25, right? And D1 can be found from here, that is 420. So the spacing found from this formula is 344.58. Okay, but the code says this spacing should be less than the list of this, right? So this is X1. So X1 is 438. So this is 438. Y1, X1 plus Y1 divided by 4. Y1 is 433. So 433, that is equal to 217. This is 438. This is 217.75. This is 300. This is found to be 128.19. This is found to be 382.5. So list is 128.19. Sorry, 128.9. Okay, and our spacing is 344.5. Okay, which is greater than this. So we have to provide spacing less than this, right? So we will provide two leg 12 mm dia stirrups about 125 mm, which is less than this, center to center, from support to the midspan of the cantilever, which satisfy the above code criteria. Okay, and now as we move towards the free end of the cantilever beam, okay, so we know that the twisting moment will decrease, and so the shear force will also decrease. So we can increase the spacing of stirrups, right? So in that case, we will provide two leg 12 mm dia stirrups about 2 to 5 mm center to center in the remaining span of the cantilever. So let me show you in the detailing. Okay, so we can see over here, right, from support to this distance up to 0.5 meters, we provide 12 mm stirrups, two leg stirrups about 125 mm, 12 mm two leg stirrups about 125 mm, and further as we go, the shear force decreases and the twisting moment also decreases. Okay, so in this region we'll provide 12 mm two leg stirrups about 2 to 5 mm, 12 mm two leg stirrups about 2 to 5 mm center to center. Okay, so this is how we do the detailing of stirrups. So this is a stirrup I have shown over here, two leg 12 mm dia stirrups, right? Now comes the next portion, that is, as per clause 26.5.1.4 IS 456/2000, page 47, for side reinforcement for beams with shear and torsion. Okay, our beam carries shear and torsion both. Okay, the code says when the overall depth of the beam is greater than 450 mm, our is 600, which is greater than 450 mm, right? Then we have to provide side reinforcement, side face reinforcement, right? And the area of the side face reinforcement should be greater than 0.1% of BD. Okay, so that is found to be 300 mm square. So we will provide two 10 mm dia bars, two we will provide two 10 mm diaphragms on each face. Let me show you. Right? Two 10 mm diaphragms on this face, two 10 mm diaphragms on this face. So total we are providing four 10 mm diaphragms. Okay, so once again I explain you, whatever steel we are providing on the periphery, whether it is the stirrup legs or the longitudinal steel or the face bars, this steel will only take active part in resisting the shear due to torsion. That is why we are providing the face bar over here. Okay, so this face bar also helps in minimizing the crack width on the side. Okay, so on the face, so that helps in both ways. Okay, so we are providing total four number of 10 dia bar. The area of 10 mm dia bar is 78.5 into 4 is 314, which is greater than 300 mm square. So we are providing more than this, so it is okay, right? Right, so this is how we provide face bars. Please remember, the spacing between these bars should not be greater than 300 mm or least dimension of the beam. The least dimension of the beam is 500. Okay, so the spacing should not be greater than 300 mm in this case, and our is less than 300 mm, so it's okay, right? Now this horizontal bar which I am showing over here are two 10 mm dia face bars on each face, that is this one, right? Now this horizontal line which I am showing over here are two 10 mm side face bars on each face, that is this bar. Okay, so this is how we do the detailing of the eccentric footing. Okay, now check for crack width should be done. It is must. Okay, in case of eccentric footing, in case of all footings, and the crack width should be kept less than 0.3 mm. Okay, please visit website mmsprogramcivil.com for videos in PDF of this file and the uh, other already uploaded videos. Okay, uh, so I hope you must have found this video useful. Okay, thank you.